If you can hear me. Hello, I see the live button on now. Glad to see some familiar names popping up, some new names as well. Glad to see all of you joining today. I see someone in Romania, one of my top countries to want to visit. Haven't been there yet, but it's rainy right now, unfortunately, they're saying. Several in San Francisco, Austin, another favorite city. Where else? Feel free to type in the chat box at any point in time during the presentation. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We'll let the few other people planning to log on. So while you're getting settled and just type in the chat box, let us know where you're calling from, where you're watching from. And any questions that come up through the webinar, please feel free to ask them at any point. I think Europe might be winning. We must be in a good a time spot for them. Everyone's home from work, I think. Romania and Hungary. Wonderful. All right. Jordan, Egypt. Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful to see you all. Nebraska. I hope you haven't had too much flooding. I hear the floods in Nebraska have been pretty bad. I'm in Chicago, so not too far away, but we didn't get the rain that you did in Nebraska. All right. Several other people logging in. We've got a Florida, Germany. I still think Europe might be winning, but I see some India's popping in. I think it must be very late there. So thank you for joining. Kuwait, wonderful. Christopher's. I've lived in a few places around the world. Most recently, I'm originally from the US, which you might be able to hear from the accent. Most recently moved here from Singapore. Do we have anyone from Singapore on? Let me know. And before Singapore, I was there for a few years. Before that, I was in China for 11 years, in Shanghai the whole time. And before that, in Australia for a few years. So I have a lot of international experience. I've worked with job seekers worldwide. And really, as part of my role with Udacity is to help you. You're busy studying, you're taking on this big project of upskilling. And my job is to help you leverage that nano degree and help you on the career path. As you know, you get so many coaching sessions available to you during the term of your nano degree. And you have a team of coaches, and we'll walk through later on how to book those appointments. But in the meantime, today, we're going to talk about you setting your career goals and help you look at what steps to take to help that new career transition happen without too much stress. And a big part of that is setting goals. But if I could know just from quick chat there, are you currently hoping to switch your career, let's say in the next 12 months? Just you can type yes or no if you plan to be switching your career in the next 12 months. You just type a yes or no, a Y or an N. Let me know. And you might be sitting there thinking it's a private decision right now, and you don't want that to be open, and that's okay too. But if you are planning to transition in the next 12 months, let us know. I hope that this will help you think about how to jump into that transition that you're looking at. And if you're not looking to transition, I think you'll still get some good use out of the material we talk about today that could apply to you in your current role or in a job search in the future. So it looks like several people. And so again, we're going to talk about career goals in a minute. I'm going to pop up my PowerPoint presentation, and I might toggle between that a few times, but I'm also watching your chat here so I can catch up with you. I also have Martin on, who's one of our career coaches. You might have seen some of his webinars or videos on YouTube in the past. He will also be helping field some of those questions. I'll also try to keep an eye on that to see what I can address as well. All right. So I'm going to share my screen and get my PowerPoint up for you. And I will try to toggle back and forth because I was telling my teammates earlier, it's not very much fun to sit and just watch a PowerPoint presentation for an hour. All right, so make your next career move. Let's look at goal setting. Again, my name is Angela, for those of you just joining, and helping you achieve these career goals. As part of your support with Udacity, you get this access to a lot of career tools. If you haven't been in your career portal yet, take a look, scan through, see what's there. There's LinkedIn reviews, resume reviews, GitHub reviews, and also personal coaching. We help with a wide range of services and the types of questions that I get asked and what I help with. I just finished a session in the last hour or so with someone who is getting ready to go to an interview tomorrow. So we practice the top interview questions that she's going to expect in a business analyst role. From our research, working with other students, with professionals in the industry, we have a lot of information at our fingertips that we want to share with you to help you find the most success in your career process. But what we understand is changing careers, changing jobs it's a big step, and it can be very stressful. And I know a lot of you are probably working and taking your courses right now, so you think, I have no time to focus on the career portal and these career goals. But what happens is people wait too long, and then suddenly they wish they had a new job tomorrow, and the stress hits. So by looking at goal setting, we're going to eliminate some of that stress. So you don't have to go all in day one, but you want to start taking the steps so that you feel confident when you're ready to make that change. So focus on goals. First, we're going to look at why you need to have career goals, what career goals you should define first, and then how to start moving towards those goals. So that's what we're going to cover. Again, as we go through, feel free to pop up any questions that might pop in your mind. I'll try to address those as I go, or Martin might address them there in the text, or we might cover it at the end. But we'll be sure to get to as many questions as possible. So, why do you need clear career goals? Why can't you just jump out there and start looking and searching and applying? Let's look for a second at two different people that might be on the job hunt. Person number one, no clear goals. You see that roller coaster, right? They're just spinning in circles, shooting in every direction, moving around as fast as they can. And guess what? They end up right back where they started. So when we don't have goals, we often spend too much time spinning around and looking in different directions without a focus, and we end up not making any progress. So while that roller coaster looks like a lot of fun, it can be very stressful. It can be very terrifying. So we want to, again, eliminate some of that terrifying part, that stressful part, and look at why having those clear goals is better. Person number two, still a windy road, still maybe sometimes a little scary, but they've got a path. They know where they're headed. They see the mile markers along the way, kilometer markers for many of you, and they see what milestones they want to hit and when. Now, does that mean every goal, as we know, can't move, can't be flexible? Of course not. We have to have some flexibility. We have to have that agility. Milestones might come a little sooner, they might come a little later, they might shift a little, and that's okay. But setting the goals to start with is really, really important. And I've worked with students who are very motivated, who have very clear goals, and the way I see them progress. And when I say student, it's any Udacity student or other professionals I work with, a really, job seeker, whatever that might be. But I notice the people that start planning the goals, setting the goals, get to their ultimate goals, ultimate destination, whether it's that new job or a promotion internally that they're working for, they get there a lot faster and with a lot more confidence than when there was no clear goal set. So what does success look like and how did they get there? And I have an example of a student I worked with recently, and she had a job offer right coming out of her graduate degree program. And the company was a startup, and things kind of got mixed up, and everything fell through just after graduation, a few weeks before she was starting the job. So again, a little scary, not sure what to do. She signed up for a Udacity course and thought, okay, I'll spend the summer taking a course, figuring, upskilling a little, give me a little something to do while I also focus on my job search. And she was very clear with the goals she set when some of the short term goals, some longer term goals, and really was a smooth process for her. And on the other hand, I get people who call and come in, they want a session and they've waited so long, they're really stressed. They haven't set any goals along the way. They've wasted weeks and sometimes months of their life unsure of where to go. So that's where, as a career coach, we can really help you set the goals. Sometimes it's a lot easier to have someone from the outside who can see where you are and look at the whole picture. And having worked with a lot of job seekers, kind of knowing where to place those goals, what they should look like, what the timelines, what's realistic, what might be a stretch, what might be very realistic for you. So what are the goals? What do they look like? How are they met? Let's get a little more into these. And I see a lot of chatting in the chat box. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. And I'm going to let Martin uh, cover many of those because they're a little bit longer and harder for me to read quickly and respond to, or I'll also get back through and address some of those at the end. Okay. So, what goals should you define first? As we know, the goals can come in all shapes and sizes. There can be that big long-term goal of, maybe 5 years down the road of the company you want to be with and the job that you want to have. And that's an awesome goal to have, and it's a great way to see out on the horizon and have a focus that is really big and a really stretch goal out there for something longer term, 5, 10 years, whatever that is. And those are really important to have because those are kind of what push you through life, right? Those are what kind of like keep you moving on the path or take a new path to get to where you want to be. But if we only had that one great big goal on the horizon, and if you see the picture of the Legos, and if you imagine someone's built one of those huge, fancy, elaborate castles with the Legos, if all you ever saw was that big castle already made, you wouldn't be picking up many of the pieces along the way. So we have to think about all the pieces that need to be built gradually to get to that ultimate goal. And it's like we've all been there. We've all gone through probably some amount of university in some phase of our lives, and we've thought, we want to graduate and have a certain job, and taking the right classes, getting the right grades, having the extra activities we do, volunteering, having a well-rounded background, are all the different things that went into place to finally graduate and get that first job. So along the way, there's a lot of short-term goals that really matter just as much as that big goal or dream at the end. Let's just take a quick second and ask a question here. In the chat box, tell me if you find it easier to set your short-term goal or your long-term goal. What do you find easier? What is like, hey, I can do this? That's an easy goal to set and work towards. Is it your long-term or your short-term? What do you find easier to set? Let's see what some of you had to say. Short-term goal. Thanks, Rashad. Anyone else? Someone else said long-term. Some people say short-term. A lot of people are finding the short term easier, and I think sometimes because we can see it so closely, right? We can imagine it. We can see the short term and know that, okay, I'm going to finish this Udacity course. That's a short term goal. That's a 3 or 4 month goal that I have. Long term can be harder for some people because they think they're not really sure where they want to go yet. They're not sure what they want or where they want to be. So maybe that goal is harder to figure out. Someone says, someone said, I set a long-term goal and divide this long-term into 5 short-term goals. Thank you. That's a great, Yumari said that. And that's a great way to look at it. And that's really kind of what we're talking about, the Legos, right? There's one big goal out there. Now let's start bringing it closer, backing it down, making it more manageable. Sometimes for some people, short-term goals are harder because they're not sure what step to take. It's usually a lot of feeling just unsure of what to do or long term where to go. And that's again where A lot of the tools that we have in the Udacity Career Portal can help you meet a lot of these short-term goals. And with the coach, we can help you along as well. And we can also help you look at different long-term options. And remember, those two long-term options, you could have one or two paths that you're thinking about taking, and that's okay because there's a lot of things you can do along the way, especially in a career search, that could probably fit both of those paths. So, we're going to talk in a few minutes about where to focus and how to have some tight focus, but also be open to widening the focus at times as well. So great. So thank you. So some people are saying, I think in general, some are saying we've got a little bit on both sides. And someone mentions that the short term is easy and the medium term is actually really hard. That's a good point too, because that's kind of, maybe in that 1 to 2 year mark. So long-term goals, for those of you especially thinking of a career change, maybe in 1 to 5 years, 10 years, and you're looking now, maybe you're taking Udacity course to skill up to get there, but start thinking about those long-term goals. And when you break it down, one way to break that down is to think of the three top areas where you might be interested. And again, this is getting some focus in there. And city, industry, title. So where do I want to be? Do I want to be in the big city at the top? Do I want to be in a different city? What industry do I want to be in? Do I want to be in autonomous vehicles? Or do I want to be in machine learning and a different sector of the tech? And then the job title. What's the dream title? I always ask people, like, if you could switch jobs tomorrow, what would your title be? And it's funny to get responses because some people think very realistically and logically, well, this is what I'm qualified for and this is what I would like to do. Other people think, well, this is what I really want, but I need to take 6 more classes before I get there. So some people automatically think in more of a long-term view. Others think more of a short-term view. And either way is okay, but it's important to have a little bit of both. So I want you to think, because a lot of times I get people and I say, well, where do you want to be located? I'm open to anywhere. I'll be in San Francisco, I'll be in New York, I'll be in Paris. And that's great to have that openness and willingness. But if you're really looking for a job, that gets really difficult to not have a tighter focus on your search. It's a lot harder to apply, to network, to make connections in 7 cities than it is maybe 1 or 2. Realistically, it's always easier to get a job in the city where you're already based. It's easier to interview, it's easier to network, it's easier to make connections, it's easier to not have that barrier of a relocation time lag or even expense on the company. But of course, it's not impossible. Just looking at what are the priorities about that location. Again, industry, it's about bringing in a little bit of the focus. And as you start searching, if you're looking in 7 different industries, it's a lot harder than saying, you know what, I have a background in healthcare and I have experience in tech. So those are the 2 areas where I'm really going to focus. In job title, typically based on your experience, based on the work you've done and your skills, you should be able to narrow it down to just a few titles. Some people then on the opposite extreme get very fixated on maybe a very, very, very specific title. But we have to remember that job titles at different companies can mean different things. And I think data analyst, data scientist, data engineer is a very good example of where there's starting to become more of a framework of what that should mean, but a lot of companies call it very different things. So as you're searching, if data analyst is what you think you should be called, start there. But as you search and look, be open to the title maybe sounding a little bit different in different places. Title also depends on the type of company. I've worked with people who might have been in finance as a vice president, maybe at a bank, where that was a good job, a good title, but they were switching over into a company there were 2 vice presidents in the whole company. So expecting that kind of title is very different. So think more functional title, not level in the organization. because that gets a little trickier. So it's better to focus on when you think of that title, what it means in the general sense. One person's asking, is it better to focus on the title or the area that you want to work? And I think, when you're like in the nitty gritty of job searching, it's the title's the most important because that gets you the positions you're looking for and when in your search, and then you can kind of branch that out into maybe different areas. Now, if you know you have a super, super passion for machine learning and that's where you want to be, then maybe the title's not as important to you. But if you know that, hey, I'm an amazing software engineer, that is my title and that's what I want to do, but I just want to get a more senior role or I want to work in a little different industry, then the title is going to be more important. And someone's asking if we're switching careers and don't know what our title should be. And that's where there's a lot of data that we have in the Udacity Career Portal that can help you. The career coaches and your student hub are great resources to start talking to people as you're exploring that field. And I know I help a lot of the people I coach and helping them find those resources and getting them kind of a short list on, okay, based on these skills, your experience and what you really want to do, we can kind of start to narrow it down to these maybe 3 or 4 job titles and start exploring those. And we'll talk a little bit about looking at job descriptions, which helps a lot as you are looking at those job titles and what job title you really want. So here we are. How to decide the job listing, the job title, the job description, whatever you want to call it. How do you decide? And there's an exercise I go through with a lot of the people I coach where I have them, I say, go out and I want you to find 5 job listings that you think you would like to have. And some people were working on this for a job that they want to apply for immediately. Other people, it's like, after I take these next 2 Udacity courses, then these are the jobs I want. So it really depends when you're looking to switch and where your skill level is. But let's just assume for right now, you've finished your Udacity course, you're finishing up some projects and you're looking to change jobs, and you decide that there's these few job titles you think are interesting. And let's use our data analyst example. And you go out and you get on Indeed or LinkedIn, one of the tech recruiter sites, and you find 5 or 6 job listings. You copy and paste them and put them in one document. And as you start going through, you start seeing some very clear trends of the skills they want, of the requirements that are out there. And you read it and you think, oh, this sounds awesome. This is the part of the job I would love. And then you start reading other things and you think, oh, shoot me if I had to do that all day, right? So you know what you like, you know what makes you happy at work, you know what you don't like. So really, as you read through the descriptions, I always tell people to kind of get a system for yourself. And I had someone I worked with recently who did this amazing job. It was all color coded. Doesn't have to be that detailed, but it was great. I said, highlight in one color what you're awesome at, what you love. Highlight in another color what you would like be miserable doing all day as you go through these descriptions. Circle where you might have gaps, where you have big gaps where you know you can't do that job because of lack of skill. Maybe you haven't learned it yet, it's too advanced, whatever it is. And start looking through, and then you start to really see the trend and you start to see, you know what, this is really a data scientist is where I'm supposed to be. But maybe I need this one additional skill. Or, you know what, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm more of a data analyst. I need to get that experience first. So that's a good exercise to go through. It takes a little time, but it really starts to help you understand what the jobs are that are out there that you might be interested in very soon. And it also helps you identify some gaps when you say, oh, wow, every job I've looked at, they want me to have, 4 years of experience using SQL, and I have about 1 project. So I need to figure out that gap. Another very important thing, though, to think about when you look at a job description is some people will look at it and they will say to me, I am not qualified. I can't apply. And I said, well, what part about it are you not qualified for? And they'll list 1 or 2 things in the description. Job descriptions in general, I always say, are the hiring manager's wish list. If they could pick any especially with big companies. They tend to be worse than the smaller companies. They tend to put in there every skill, every qualification, everything that they would love to have in this ideal candidate. And it's probably not realistic. If you meet every single requirement that's in that job description, well, you're probably overqualified already. So don't look at a job description as I have to tick every single box. So my rule of thumb that I use is I say under the required skills. If you feel well, first of all, when you read the job description, if you inside feel like, hey, I can do this, that's the number one most important thing. And if there's a few things missing in that description that you may not exactly match up with, but you're confident, then you can write that cover letter and have the conversation to get your way into that job if you really believe you have the skills and abilities to do it. Then on the other hand, if you're looking through again, if you looked at the requirements and you say, I meet most of these, and then on the preferred or job description part, if you meet 75% of it, then you're probably a great candidate. So don't rule yourself out too quickly. A lot of people do that, and they're they're selling themselves short, and we don't want you to do that. Of course, we don't want you to go for a job that you're absolutely not qualified for and just waste your time applying for things that aren't a good match. But don't feel like you have to read the job description word for word and be a perfect match for every one of those. So that's a little bit about how to kind of tackle the job descriptions that are out there, the job titles. And as you go through a few of those exercises I just discussed, I think you'll start getting more clarity on the type of job you want, what you're qualified for, and where you can see yourself in one of these short term, medium, or long term goals, depending on the search you're undertaking. Okay, we see this iceberg here, and it says look deep, not wide. As we know with icebergs, there's always a lot more under the surface, right, than what we see on top. And kind of what I was talking about, don't pick 7 cities or don't pick 18 industries. It's really important to think about your goal and go deep with that goal. So if you say, I'm going to focus my search in Austin, Texas, in software engineering jobs, and I want to be uh, in the tech industry. Really focus on that and go deep in that search. Compare those job descriptions, look at what's out there, start applying, start expanding your network in that area. Really go deeper in that focus, that goal, that search, so you really start to understand it, you want it, and you know it. If you spread yourself too thin, then you're just hitting the surface of so many different industries and jobs and companies that you never feel like you're connecting anywhere. And I find that people that do that have really struggle to ever find the right position. And I worked with someone recently and he said, well, I have 6 resumes. And so every resume is for the different type of job I'm looking for in these different industries. And I said, you know, I appreciate your openness to do different things and show this flexibility, but you are making this so hard on yourself. You're trying to um, to focus in so many places that it's impossible to go deep enough. Going way too wide. Generally speaking, you need one resume. Now, at the top of your resume, you might have an objective statement or some type of summary. And in that case, you could tweak that a little with each job application. Absolutely fine. But if you're switching around things and adding projects and taking projects off, and you are going to confuse yourself, you don't end up giving a consistent message to the people who are trying to learn about you. And in some cases, if you've got these 6 different resumes out there, well, your LinkedIn is staying the same, right? So chances are you're going to give a resume to someone and they're going to then see your LinkedIn profile and they're going to be looking going, is this the same person? Does this really go together? So have a consistent message. And yeah, you can tweak it a little. Personally, I work in corporate training and I work in career coaching. So if I'm going in to talk to a new client, possibly in corporate training, I'm going to focus my cover letter mainly on your cover letters, that compelling argument of why you're a good fit for that job. So my cover letter or my directive to that client is going to be focused on my coach or my training skills in the areas where I train. It might be in presentation skills. It might be in team communications. Could be in team building. If I'm talking to Udacity about a new client that we want to bring on some career coaching, I'm going to focus more on my career coaching experience. And again, that's all going to come out in my cover letter. I'm not going to do 7 different resumes. So someone asked, are cover letters really important? Absolutely. Cover letters is what tells your story about why you're a good fit for that job. I can't stress enough 2 things. One, yes, cover letters are a pain. They're not fun to write. They're the thing that will suck more of your time and slow you down with every job application. It's a fact. But it's the number one most compelling thing to get you in the door. Your resume, your skills, they've already seen that if you're applying. They're going to see that real quickly. But write a letter that helps them connect your background, your experience with why you're such an awesome fit for that job. That is going to get you in the door. And I can also promise you that a bad cover letter, a cover letter that sounds like you're just rehashing your resume or taking some form that you found online, people see through it quickly. Really connect to that job, decide like, hey, this is what I really want. This is where I'm such a good fit. I'm going to write a letter that just like tells my story and gets me in the door. So moving on from my little rant about cover letters. So I know they're a pain. I know they're hard, but they're so worth it. And that's something else you can do, a cover letter review with your coach as well to help you. You can also refine a cover letter to the point that if you've done the right work and focusing on the job title that you're looking for and the types of jobs, then you should have a pretty decent cover letter that needs tweaked just a little bit. More than your resume. Hopefully you're not tweaking your resume much at all. Cover letter, a little bit more. And we can talk about cover letters in a whole webinar on its own. So what does it mean by become an expert and collect perspectives? When you imagine like you're out there networking, you're out there talking to people and trying to get into, if you're switching careers, I know a lot of you, the reason you're taking a Udacity course is to maybe pivot a little or even go on a whole new track. So how do you get into that industry? How do you start building your presence? And part of that is becoming an expert. Now, does that mean you know everything about machine learning that more than the person hiring you? Of course not. But what it means is you start collecting perspectives, start asking for informational interviews, start talking, if you're working, start talking to people in the company you're already working with about what they're doing in machine learning. Start having all these conversations. And the more you're out, you might listen to a speaker, you might go to a panel, you might go to an event where there's, I think a lot of people are at a gaming conference right now out in San Francisco. If you're at the gaming conference, let us know. And I think that you start becoming in that space, right? And as the more people you talk to, you start to think, hey, there's some themes going on. For me, I start to know a lot about what's happening in best practice in presentation skills training. I read a lot on it. I talk to people. I train people. So I'm constantly looking for new information and having different conversations and start becoming more of an expert in that field. I know that's not as complicated as a lot of the type of work you're all doing with the autonomous vehicles and all of that. I get that. It's a lot more complicated, but you can get out there, you're having the conversations, you're becoming an expert, and you can start even connecting people as well because you start knowing what's going on out there. And in that, don't dismiss your current company. There's a very high likelihood that many of you could be sitting right now in a business that might need someone in this new area where you're hoping to go to. And I worked with a student recently, just as an example. He was interning at a company and in a particular field. I can't remember off the top of my head. And he really wants to get into, let's use machine learning because it keeps popping up in my head. Really wants to get into machine learning. And so I said, well, what about in your current company? He said, well, I don't know. I'm not in machine learning there. And I said, well, surely as an intern, everybody likes to help the young student intern. So those of you who are sitting there going, hey, I'm a young student intern, use that opportunity to say, hey, I just want to learn. I'm just trying to explore and see what's out there. People will love to help you. And even if you're not a young intern, just to show that curiosity, to show that something you're interested in, to connect with some people in the company and say, hey, I see that you're in machine learning. I'd love to know what we're doing here in that field. I've been studying a lot about it. I've been reading more and I'm really curious. Do you have time for a chat? And as you start to do that, whether you're building that internally, if you're working somewhere where you have that opportunity, that's awesome. Or maybe you start reaching out to your contacts and doing your networking outside of that. And I think if you listen to our last webinar on networking, we talked a lot about ways to do that. And if you're curious, you can find a recorded video of that webinar as well. So at some point, we have to eliminate some options. One, maybe they decline us and we don't get the job. Maybe we're given an offer, but we realize it's not the right fit. Maybe we're going down a path and we're applying, and then we're not getting anywhere. So maybe we need to refocus. Maybe we need to eliminate some options and move on. So don't get stuck churning in those wheels, right? Try to like batch it, like say, okay, I've looked at these data analyst jobs. I'm not getting anywhere. Nothing's working. Everyone's saying I don't have these certain skills. So maybe I need to shift a little and eliminate that option. Or maybe I've had 7 interviews for a software engineer and I'm realizing that I'm lacking a little bit of a skill, or they just doesn't seem to be a good fit. Maybe I need to move on from that. So make some decisions to either get in or out or stop your search and those, so you're not spinning your wheels too much, stuck in a certain short-term goal. So we all want this to be true. We don't want it to be a question mark, right? We want it to be, I got an offer. So thinking about getting an offer and how you prioritize. Different times in our life, different things take priority, and that is absolutely okay. I was just working with a client last night who was looking at a couple offers, and in her particular situation, pay is very, very important. And there's nothing to be ashamed of to say, pay is right now the number one thing for me. Then it's maybe the people I'm going to work with, and then it's the position. But right now, at this time in my life, I need to make the money. Now, there could be other times in your life where you say, you know what? I don't really care what the pay is. I want this experience. I want this position. That's the most important thing. And then next is the people I'm going to work with. I want a good life work balance. I want to be happy. I want a great atmosphere. And then the position. So, but know your priorities and know where you stand with where you want to be and need to be, because it's really important to have these priorities set before you just jump on an offer. And think about that. Think about the 3 Ps, the people, the pay, the position, and know how you want to prioritize. And don't let anyone make you feel like you're prioritizing wrong, because it's very personal. It's time of your life, stage in your career. There's a lot of factors, and it's a very, very personal way to prioritize. And there's no right or wrong. And there's no one saying, oh, pay shouldn't be the most important thing to you. Well, that's your decision, and that's okay. So your decision, your prioritization, but just make sure you prioritize it. So you've figured out how to set the goals, you start reaching them, but how do you get there? How do you turn your goals into action? First, let's think about some short-term goals and how you can turn those goals into action. And you can see here, like everyone building it up and turning the key. And really it's, these short-term goals, you want to set them. They could be a week, they could be a month, they could be 3 months, but they're things you want to get done quickly. One goal for a career search might be, I'm going to create for a lot of the people I work with, we create a job tracking spreadsheet. And in that spreadsheet, these are the jobs I've applied for. This is when I applied. Um, this is a copy of the job description, which is very important to keep a copy of the job description, because a lot of times by the time they call out to candidates, they've taken it offline. So really important. And I'm going to put this spreadsheet together, and my goal for this week is to get that done so I can start, when I start applying, I've got this ready. I've got this tool put together. So one of the first things to do in your career search and thinking about how to meet these goals is to build your network. You see there, 80% of jobs are found through networking. Now, does that mean, are you sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, am I wasting all my time getting on LinkedIn or Indeed or whatever site it is to apply? Absolutely not. Because it's often goes hand in hand. One, you're building your network, and that might be online through LinkedIn and talking to people. Also, hopefully a lot in person as well. We need that balance. We need both. They work in tandem together these days. And if you were applying for jobs and you're building that network, you might be applying online, but it's because maybe of someone or a conversation you had that might help you get your resume to the top of the stack, for using an old terminology. And then you want to find people. You want to find the people. I use the example. Let's say it's autonomous vehicles, and you've built up enough related experience. You've built up some certain skills, but you really need to start knowing people in that space. And that's sometimes the tricky part. For one, you've got your Udacity classroom, which you can start really building those relationships, connect on LinkedIn, ask each other questions, find out more from each other. You can go on LinkedIn, and there's a tool, and we can share a YouTube video with you might want to watch later about how to actually go through and find people. It's very easy to find jobs. It's easy to find companies, but there's also a way you can just find people. You can find them by job title. You can find them by the company that they work for. And if we have time at the end, I'll even walk you through and show you how to do that. But I helped someone the other day, and it's also helpful you can also do an alumni tool where you can look at people that went to a certain university and where you also went, and then find the people who might be in autonomous vehicles who also went to Ohio State University, whatever it is. And then you can say, okay, now I'm down to about 200 people. Maybe I can find someone in here who maybe they're in my same city. Maybe we were there at the same time on campus. Maybe we have a third degree connection. Whatever it is, to find that one little thing that can help connect you, you reach out to them and start building those connections and having conversations, have informational interviews, find ways to, again, talk in the space, be in the space, find out who to follow on LinkedIn. This is really, really important. You don't always just have to connect with people, just follow them. Know what the leaders in the industry are talking about, what they're saying, and it can be really, really helpful. The next is you want to start building your brand, customizing those application materials, your resume, GitHub, LinkedIn, whatever field you're in where you need to be. I would say LinkedIn's a given. Everyone's got to have that. Obviously, everyone's got to have the resume, cover letters come. But again, kind of as I mentioned earlier, is having that consistent message and making sure that you are showing a very compelling, consistent image across all of your materials. If I look at your GitHub, your LinkedIn, and your resume, and I'm not convinced I'm looking at the same person, you've got an image problem, right? We need to make sure that's all consistent, that I feel like I'm getting to know you as I'm looking through this. And it also helps build your confidence and your focus. When I mentioned earlier the person about having 6 or 7 resumes, I think, she started doubting her own ability to move into a certain role and who she was. So building your brand is as important for yourself as it is to recruiters and hiring managers. So think about what your story is, how you want to be seen, how you want to come across in all of these different areas. And again, this is where the Udacity career portal, you can find there's amazing resources that you can go through, walking you through the best tips for your resume, what to put in there. Then you can get a resume review. Same with your LinkedIn and cover letters. Keywords, keywords, keywords. So, so important. And I know many of you might even be um, uh, in the Google Analytics program or the digital marketing. You know how important keywords are. Anyone who's worked in any type of search engine optimization. LinkedIn especially well, it's important on your resume for most all job applicant tracking systems, whether it's inside a company or it's on online recruiter or source like LinkedIn. LinkedIn's very important because there's a lot of recruiters now that are in there searching for people. And the keywords need to show up most importantly in your headline and your summary. And I can't stress that enough. So if you are if you're going into wanting a position where, let's say, your Python skills are the most important skill that you need to have, that word needs to be in your summary at least once. And maybe if that's the most important, it even needs to be in your headline. So top skills, they need to be in your headline and your summary. That's usually about 4 to 5 words because your headline's very limited. And then as you grow that, then that list of keywords, those all need to be in your summary somewhere. If I'm on there searching and I'm think about, okay, if someone was going to hire me, what words would they type in to try to find someone like me? And there's a lot of different lists. I have several lists that I've used with people in different fields, from AI to data scientists, Google Analytics, whatever it is, where I've done a lot of research, and Udacity's done a lot of research to extract what those keywords are. LinkedIn has helped as well. So if you're not sure, talk to your coach. Another great thing to do is to look at profiles of people who have jobs that you would like to have. So if I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I really, really want to be a machine learning engineer, I'm going to go on and I'm going to look at 15 different profiles of machine learning engineers. What do they say about themselves? How do they describe themselves? What words are they using? If look at especially people that may have changed jobs recently, because most likely they upped their LinkedIn profile at that time. So keywords are super, super important. Of course, you want a full profile all the way through. Again, the career portal can help you walk you through that. If you work with a coach, we can help look at it from more a marketing perspective and make sure you have that summary as convincing, as compelling as it needs to be. Next, I've mentioned a few times, is to meet with a career coach. And some of you might be thinking, I don't get it. Why do I work with a career coach? What's in it for me? First of all, it's included in your Udacity experience. You get 4 sessions, so which is an awesome, incredible benefit as part of your package. And you can really talk with us about anything related to careers. Now, if you're trying to figure out which deep learning class to take next, or if it's getting very technical, those are reserved more for our advisor hours, where they can give you more technical background. Career coaches, again, anything to do with careers. What path should I go on? What keywords should I use? I have an interview. What are they going to ask me? How do I set some goals? How do I keep track of whatever it is that you want help with? We are here to be your accountability partner. As you set these goals we've been talking about, we can help be your person to keep those in check. Make sure you're meeting them when you want to, and someone you can talk to about it. We're a trusted resource. Our only goal in talking to you is to help you succeed in your career. So you can trust that we're going to give you a very independent, unbiased opinion. And it gives you a different perspective. We all, probably talk to our parents, our friends, our spouses, and they see us in a certain light. They have their own biases about who we are or the career path we're looking at. And it's nice to have that extra opinion out there that is just completely neutral. So I think we can add a lot of benefit for you. A lot of people say, oh, when should I meet with a career coach? That's the big question. So should I do it at the end of my nano degree? Should I do it at the beginning? And I recommend having your first session fairly soon because you can assess where you are. You can start talking about some of the goals that need to be put in place. Oftentimes, I even come up with a little action plan saying these are the 4 things I think that are that you need to do over the next few months. Number 1 and number 2, I'd say within 30 days. So I even try to set some really smart goals and help the people I coach come up with those goals together. Sometimes they know exactly, they've got their goals, they just need some help getting there. So it's really every time I call someone to coach, it's a completely different experience. It's not just me spitting out words on how to write a cover letter or something. It's tailored to you. It's so we can help you personally. And last, you'll start applying and finding jobs. And again, customizing the job search materials for your current focus. So you've set the goals, you've started your networking, and then you're going to start applying and finding those jobs. Now we are going to open it up for questions. I might just pop over to one slide really quick to make sure everyone can see this. And then I'm going to turn my slides off for a little bit so we can answer some questions. If you're wondering how to book a coaching session, you go to your career portal and you can see like in that black bar there, you see the blue Udacity icon. And then just down, you see the little briefcase at the bottom, the little white one. And you click on there and it'll take you to career services, is the screen you see now. And you'll see virtual meeting, one-to-one career coaching. And it's you just click book now, a calendar will open. You choose a coach. There's a few in there for you to choose from. You choose a time that works for you and provide a mobile phone number. And then at the time of that appointment, the coach will call your mobile phone. We call through our portal, so your number is actually not seen or shared with anyone. It just calls you. If there's any technical difficulties, which happens sometimes, we do have a Zoom room that we can use as a backup in an audio format. So that's how to book a session. So I wanted to back up there a little before I turn my screen off. And so I'm just going to stop sharing and open it up for questions. All right. So I'm going to be looking over here at my screen to see the chat room come up and see what I might be able to answer for you. So Michelle, you said it says your degree is not eligible and you're a front end nano degree. I guess it depends. I can't tell by just looking right now. It depends if you, when your degree started, if you were in one of the groups, if it started very recently, those are the ones that have coaching. If you feel like you should have it, definitely send an email to career-support@udacity.com. And then Martin, if you wouldn't mind typing in the chat box that email address and just say, I don't see coaching, am I eligible? Because there have been some glitches where you were supposed to have it and it's not showing up. So please email if you're not sure. The coaching sessions are 30 minutes each. And I know that might not sound like a long time, but sometimes I literally get off the phone with people and I think I just overwhelmed them because there's a lot of information we want to share. And it's not just a casual chat, it's action, action, action. And I do as much as I can. I know the other coaches do too, to make sure that you get off that call and think, okay, I feel better. I've got some work to do. I might be a little overwhelmed with how much we talked about, but I feel like I can start making progress. And then also at the end of the call, we do type notes up for you and send them through our career portal so that you get a follow-up email that says, hey, this is a little bit of what we talked about. These are maybe some of the action items that you have. And often we'll also share some resources that we think might benefit you and where you are in your search right now. So it is all very personalized. Let's see. I'm looking through questions now to see what I can pick up on. Imagine a case where I have all listed skills and great command, but don't have the 3-year industry experience, then what could be the best solution? I think when you don't have the experience they're looking for, there's a lot you can do in talking about maybe the different projects you've worked on and trying, if you don't feel like you've done enough projects in your particular sector, to try to do more open source projects, to try to volunteer on some projects so that, if they're wanting 3 years and you have 3 days, then you're it might be a stretch. If they're looking for 3 years and you've had about a year and it's been like, but very concentrated in a lot of what they need, and you believe you could do the job, I think that you have a pretty compelling reason to state that in your cover letter and talk about the amount of work you've done and the exposure you've had, maybe in a shorter period of time. A lot of times some people could have 3 years work experience, but not have as great of exposure as maybe you did in a concentrated period. I've got another question popping up. If you're changing career tracks, should you keep all of the old information on your LinkedIn or move on to the new career? So I think, think of LinkedIn as your resume and what kind of when you're going from work experience down, people still want to see what you've done. They want to see, just because you have experience in the healthcare industry and you're switching over to automotive doesn't mean, like, there's a lot to be said that for people who come in with different perspectives, especially if you're working in an area of creativity and innovation, they want to have different perspectives. They want to hear your opinions and what you've done and show how you can apply it to a new industry. And I think that as part of that, in your summary, that's where you tell that story. Sometimes I always tell people that you have to be the one sometimes to connect the dots. If we imagine I don't know, let's say a professional soccer player. He played soccer all his life. He played soccer in college. He got recruited. He's playing soccer. Now he's looking to switch teams and play soccer somewhere else. Well, you know what? It's pretty obvious what he's going to do. But if he decided, you know what? I really want to play baseball. It's up to him to connect those dots to prove that why he can switch from soccer to baseball. So think about that as yourself. You still have all this awesome experience that's made you a great employee, that's given you all these incredible skills, but you have to help them connect the dots as to why you can do this other job. And don't doubt yourself. Believe you can do it. Write it out, explain it, tell the story. And the more you talk about it, the more you believe it yourself and write it down and share it, then I think the more that you feel confident going in that you can do that. Let's see. How does HR arrange the requirements in a job post? Is it generally by most important first, or is it random? Typically, it's broken down into like the job description first, like what you'll be doing, and then underneath requirements. So it might say requirement fluent in English. Requirement might be PhD, whatever it is. Like it could be, whatever they decide, like that's the criteria that they must have. And that required section is really where you have to look through and make sure that you feel like you're pretty confident you've got the most of the requirements. And then in the rest of the description, then hopefully that 75% mark might work. Let's see. Got a few more minutes. If there's any more questions, I'm happy to take a few more. I'm going to scroll up and see if I missed any that might have popped up. Okay. This is a good question. I took many different courses in Android hardware and machine learning, and I decided to get a job in machine learning. Do I need to mention it on my resume? I'm guessing you're saying, should I mention all those other courses? I think in a lot of, especially this type of field you're going into, they want to see that people are those lifelong learners, intellectual curiosity, always wanting to learn more, being on the cutting edge. So anything that you can show where you've advanced your skills, that you have this like this big toolbox coming in where you can apply all these different skills is very helpful. Now, where and how much you emphasize it might change. So if you've kind of, for me personally, I was in finance for many years. So if you look at my LinkedIn, like my finance experience, I've kind of shrunk down because I'm not really that interested in working in finance again. I've done some finance related work where I have done training sessions for banks and for investment companies. So I think having that on there shows a little bit to my credibility in other areas. And while I don't have so many bullet points or details about my banking experience because it's not as relevant to people. So I kind of shrink that down a little and then build up what I think is more important. Okay, how much detail should a LinkedIn page contain? Currently, I have position and duration, but not what I did in each role. If switching careers, is the detail from previous roles important? Yeah, I think the detail is important. I think because a few reasons. One, a lot of people are looking at that instead of a resume, or someone tells you meet someone and they give an introduction, so they're going to look at your LinkedIn, and if they don't get a good enough sense of what you did in that role, then they may just end up overlooking you. And again, remember where those keywords, like while most important, it's in the headline and summary, it's also good to put those keywords through all those work experience that you have. So you don't have to have maybe as much detail as your resume if you don't want to. You can have more, but I think at least get the point across. If you had to pick 2 bullet points of each, is what's the most important work I've done that's most relevant to what I want to do next, and emphasize those points. Someone says, I don't feel comfortable having, okay. So they're saying they've done a lot of sales jobs and they don't feel as comfortable putting so much of that on because of they're now applying for more research and analytics jobs. So for one, I think any work experience is good work experience. So maybe you don't put as much, again, detail into those jobs, but you need to list it to show you have like a good track record, and that you're a responsible employee, that you go to work, that you're motivated. You're not just, been sitting for the last 6 years wishing you were in, I think you said analytics. Yes, research and analytics. Now, a lot of times, I just worked with someone recently who kind of similar, had a job. I think he was in sales and wanted to go more into analytics. And I said, think about anything you did in your role in sales that might have been analytics. Did you track your customers? Did you keep a database? Did you use Salesforce and look at the number of times you called that person? How could you take some of those skills and talk about those as why that maybe that motivated you to want to get into analytics? And maybe, like, you obviously probably have built really great communication skills, and from those communication skills, then the analytics can come through as well. Let's see. I'm hoping to change careers, and though I have significant experience in my field, how can I sell myself to enter a new field, especially without any work experience? I think, that's a lot of kind of, if you start thinking about getting into that space, and I talk about that a lot with people I work with, you need to enter the space and start by following people on LinkedIn, start by reading the right articles, following blogs, wherever the conversations are happening. Then as you feel more knowledgeable, start reaching out and talking to people, ask for informational interviews, start building those connections. And I think it can happen pretty quickly where you start feeling the confidence to go in and switch industries. And again, remember, a lot of skills transfer over, but sometimes it's up to you to connect those dots and explain how they can actually transfer. And I am going to take one more question, and then I actually have a coaching appointment coming up and we'll need to run. So the next question is, I wonder if Udacity degree could help a 35-year-old guy, an older, get an entry-level career. Absolutely. I worked with people. I'm assuming you're saying 35, like you're old. You're not. And I work with people all age ranges. I have people I've worked with who are still in university, 20 years old, 21 years old. And they're also taking Udacity course on the side to build up those skills. And I've worked with people who are almost like, I would say, pre-retirement age, like in their 60s, who are taking a course to upskill in their current job to keep themselves relevant. So absolutely, there's don't let your age define, where you are and if you can switch or not. If you're willing to do the work and you're learning and you're expanding yourself, then you're all good. I'm sorry I could not get to all the questions. I know there's a lot of great questions on there. We will keep an eye out, follow us, and maybe Martin, you can chime in here. The best way to keep up with what webinars we have coming, different live events where you can ask questions in formats like this. I think that there's on a certain YouTube channel that you can find it. I think there's places they're recorded. So Martin, if you can just let everyone know where to go to, if they want to hear this again, if they want to see some new ones in the future, that would be really great. All right, there it is. Martin had that for us, udacity.com/events. So again, pat yourselves on the back. And I think it's awesome, that you're taking these courses. I'm always impressed by everyone I coach. So your technical skills, your motivation is awesome. And thanks for being here and listening to us. I know for some of you, it's the middle of the night. So go back to bed or go back to studying, whatever you might be doing. And some of you, it's lunchtime, I know, in Chicago. So thanks again for being here. I look forward to hopefully talking with you, many of you directly in a coaching session. You might be talking to Martin or one of our other coaches. And again, we can answer, if we don't have the answer at our fingertips, we will help you get the answers that you need to help you in this career search. So thank you so much. And we are going to sign off now.